My name is Bill Haley for the Facebook page called HALEYNOMICS. Now, my name is Bill Haley, so Haley in economics is HALEYNOMICS. And I am part Austrian, part Chicago, and there's plenty of common sense. I don't go strictly with any philosophy, but I am more influenced by the Austrian school, Chicago school, and the like. But a lot based in liberty. Liberty is huge in my thinking in economics. While most issues in economics have been addressed, HALEYNOMICS has many unique features and opinions. So I try not to write what other people have written. I try not just to regurgitate what they've said. I try to come up with my own issues. Now, some of my favorite economists would be Milton Friedman, Walter Williams, Hayek, Mises, and Milton Friedman. I said Milton Friedman, and Thomas Sowell. So those are my top five. But even in all those people, I have different opinions. Obviously, everybody should have different opinions of everybody out there. That does not mean I disagree with them. It just means I want to address it a little bit differently, or I might see it a little bit differently, or economics has so many factors that I want to they emphasize certain factors and they're right. There's no, I'm not going to argue with Mises. I'm not going to argue with Hayek or Thomas Sowell, Walter Williams, or Milton Friedman, but I will argue and expand their views or expand what they want to do. So I want to go through some articles. And the articles will tell you a little bit about my views. I have, I think, roughly about 60 articles that I'm going to highlight here. And then I really want to do a video on each one. But I've started writing this probably in 2013, 2014, all the way through now. Now it's 2020, 24. My last article was probably 3 or 4 years ago. I might have written one recently. But not so much in the last 3 years. I've been working on my new constitution, my government reform ideas, and everything else. So let's go through some of my articles, and I'll give you the flavor of what it is. And everything can be found at haley2024.org. So easy to find, but there it is. Let's go with here. One of my titles are Taxing the World's Supply of Consumer Goods. That's dealing with, in the last several years, we have done so much money printing without adding new assets is taxing the world's supply of consumer goods. So it's a unique argument. I read a lot of economics and listen to a lot of economics, and I make different points than most people. Okay, the next title would be The Flip Side of Income Inequality. It's the inequality of serving your fellow man. Very rarely talked about in a real way. But when you talk about income inequality, you also have to be talking about the inequality of serving your fellow man, because people only get the income based off of serving your fellow man, unless you're doing it through government in a corrupt way. We're talking about free enterprise now. Now we have a lot that's not free enterprise in our country. When you get government contracts and the like, that's not free enterprise. So when I say most of my talk here is, I'm talking about free enterprise, not how government's manipulating that. Obviously puts into a lot of problems. Okay, and then next article, analyzing U.S. Senators McSally's, it's like 3 or 4 years ago, right at the height of COVID, analyzing U.S. Senator McSally's legislative effort to have taxpayer pay for the rich to take an expensive vacation. Yes, she was conservative, or no, she was Republican, definitely not conservative. But this was highly misguided law to try to give tax breaks or tax credits to vacations. And that, read what I have to say there, you'll see that it really was not good. Okay, what can one liberal senator and presidential candidate from a half a century ago teach the current liberal senator and presidential candidate? And that was, I believe I wrote that in 2000, so roughly Joe Biden, Donald Trump dealing with what the liberal senator and presidential candidate McGovern did about a half a century ago. So I try to do some comparisons there. Okay, I did that one twice. Okay, the importance of knowledge. Oh my goodness, the importance of knowledge. Read that one. You'll get some new information, a new perspective of economics on that. Share loans is a different type of loan that we should start trying to use. I think it would be a good idea. I'm not against loans. I'm for smart loans. There's definitely some illegitimate loans. If there's credit card expenditure for living expenses, bad. A good business loan for a business truck and business equipment to start making some good money, and it's very doable, then that's good loans. Obviously, mortgages are good, can be good loans. Some student loans can be very good. Some can be very bad, depending on the circumstances. So, but what is a share loan? Foreign trade issues to consider. I'm making some points that a lot of people don't make. Some people might make them here and there, but I think I put it together and put it into a way that most people don't. Who pays tariffs? So a lot of people talk about this issue, so I'm not alone in talking about this issue. I think I address it a little bit differently than most. Subsidies and freed up labor hours. What does subsidies do? Government subsidies to certain industries, and what do freed up labor hours do? And I address it and give people a little bit more thoughts, because what I try to address there is things that if you read this and then you read a lot of other articles, you're going to see how they're missing the point in related to labor hours. So I think I bring something to the table on that one. Individual, family, neighborhood, city, state, country, earth, and Milky Way. Obviously, you go from the smallest part of government to larger, and this is dealing with free trade. And at what point should we stop free trade? Should we stop it with the individual and not let the individual trade with anybody else? Should we only let trade happen within the family? Only within the neighborhood of 30 people to 100 people, even to 1,000 or 2,000 people? Should we just let free trade happen within the city or within the state or the country or all of Earth? Or, obviously I'm making a joke here, but the Milky Way, all of the solar system. So at what point should free trade stop? I'm not saying it shouldn't stop somewhere, but for what reasons? I'm not saying there's not a good legitimate reason, but it stops becoming economic reasons and starts becoming political, or you're dealing with enemies. Okay, next one. The high value of great investment bankers. It is upsetting to me hearing how a lot of people down or denigrate or look down at investment bankers as just greedy. The value of really good investment bankers are tremendously valuable to our society and to people's prosperity. It is profound how good to society it is to have good investment bankers, and to demonize them is very troubling to me. Foreign enemies related to tariffs. So should we do tariffs or not do tariffs related to enemies? Not talking about allies, but enemies. Okay, the next one would be economics has many factors. Many articles dealing with economics limit their article to a very, very few factors. And to be honest with you, if you want to write a 700 to a 800 word article, you have to limit it. There's no doubt. You can't go into every factor, but there's literally hundreds of factors, if not thousands of factors you have to consider. And a lot of people, they leave out, they concentrate on one or two. They leave out a tremendous amount that are highly important. When you leave them out, you don't get the full picture. Sweatshops and remittances. I try to deal with a lot of people talking about how bad remittances are or sweatshops are. What's the flip side of that? Are we only looking at the bad part of sweatshops? Is there any good side of sweatshops? What's the alternative? What would happen if you didn't have sweatshops? It's not just all glory if you don't have sweatshops. It doesn't just you can't just say sweatshops are bad. What happens if you don't have it? Is it worse? Okay, there are 4 ways to pay for government services. We go into the new way. 3 are known to everybody, and I go into a new way of requiring people, citizens, and businesses to pay for government services directly. So get rid of government doing it. You're paying for what currently government does. You do it in a different way. So you're paying for government services directly. So it doesn't go through the taxpayer, it doesn't go through the legislation. There's a little bit of legislation saying that you have to do it, but you have to do it through the free enterprise system. Modern monetary theory is insane. That's a short article. It's just, when I learned about it 5, 6, 7 years ago, I was floored about just how ignorant it was. It was literally insane. And people just, and we're living through it way too much right now. There are not any 2 jobs that are the same. It's something that we hear about when people talk about income inequality, or why somebody get paid more than somebody else. And they usually work, 2 jobs that are the same. There are not 2 jobs that are the same. Likewise, there are not 2 employees that are the same. So I wanted to address that issue directly. So let's just not think that, oh, there's 2 lawyers, they're the same. 2 cash register attendants, they're not, doesn't mean they're the same. So I talk about that issue. What does a dollar represent? And those that possess millions. And that brings up new topics that most people don't think about. The minimum wage, I don't talk about it like everybody else. I bring up new points of view, and I come from it from a different point of view than most people do. I'm not saying everything's new, but I do bring in new angles on that. Issues of income inequality. Capitalism creates the most wealth and results in the most equal distribution of that wealth. It's not equally distributed by no means, but it's more than socialism. Socialism is supposed to be, by definition, equal distribution of wealth. It's not. And capitalism creates much more wealth. So anyway, the poor in capitalist free enterprise systems are usually better off than the rich in socialist systems. Okay, when the government owes everyone money, when the government owes everybody money, which is insane, government needs to take money from, which means tax, everyone to give it to us. So if government owes us all $1,000, it has to take $1,000 from us to give to us. And the act of taking it reduces down GDP. We lose GDP just from the act of them taking it, because they're taxing us, which means they raise our tax rates. So it's insane for government to give citizens money. Now, obviously, we need a military, so we employ soldiers or the police officer or judges or legitimate government services. That's fine. That's not giving them money. That's employing somebody. But when we just give them money, especially everybody money, or a big sizable proportion of the citizens' money, we have to take it from us to give to us. It's a bad idea. It creates a lot of corruption, a lot of problems. Minimum wage, I talk about a scenario of the tale of 2 apple farmers. So it's a simple little story that will demonstrate the foolishness of minimum wage. The Laffer curve, I deal with the Laffer curve. I do I put a lot of hours in on the Laffer curve. We're talking hundreds of hours. I have many videos from different lengths, probably about 5 or 6 different lengths, from 1 minute to 5 minutes to 15 minutes to 35 minutes, something like that. I think one or two that's over an hour, and from many different angles. And I love talking about the Laffer curve and what that means. The Laffer curve is true because prices matter. If prices matter, the Laffer curve is true. If prices matter, therefore the Laffer curve is true. The broken windows and war economic stimulus fallacies. I talk about that and just how silly that one aspect is, but it's out there, and it's out there too often. And once you read what I have to say about it, I think people will understand we don't want to have a war for economic stimulus. We don't want to break a window for economic stimulus. It's not a good thing. Okay, this one would be controversial, but I think I make the case. A case against welfare in the tax code, which means earned income tax credits and the like. We should, and also deductions and stuff. So I think we need to halt all deductions, exemptions, credits, and the UBI, which is a tax credit type of thing. I think we need to go to lower spending, lower tax rates, and governmental responsibility. So lower what government's responsible for. So I make the case that we should not do welfare in the tax code. It's a bad idea. Okay, free enterprise system versus socialism. It's one of my earlier articles. That's pretty standard, what a lot of people might say, but I think I'd bring a little bit more to it. High progressive tax rates, bans, or effectively bans the rich from serving the poor unless they want to give the poor charity. It's a bad idea to have high progressive tax rates, especially what Bernie Sanders wants to do, upwards of 90% and higher. It's quite insane. I give reasons which I don't hear out there. I listen to a lot of different people, from the conservative to the liberal to the libertarian, to a lot of different aspects, and I don't hear some of these arguments that I'm making. Haley 2024's top tax principles. I'm Bill Haley, so Haley 2024 is my movement, government reform ideas. So that's what I go by. That under that branding of Haley 2024 is all of the government reform ideas I do. And then top tax principles, corporate tax cuts. I did this, I think 2021 when Trump pushed through the tax. Not 2021, 2017, 2018, when Trump pushed through the corporate tax cuts. And we talked a little bit about that. And I think I bring something new to that discussion as well. Again, I listen to and read a lot, and I think I bring something to that. Who should control the demand for labor hours? It's important for people to understand and just read a small article on that. To when you hear a lot of other arguments, you'll see that it's not so easy. That will give you a perspective that will make a lot of people's arguments not valid if you just read a simple argument and understand a few concepts surrounding that. People worry about the future of work with increased technology, with AI and technology taking over so many jobs. It's bogus. I'm not worried about that whatsoever. And I try to tell you why I'm not worried about that. So with all the articles written about we need to go UBI, which is a horrible idea, because of AI taking over all our jobs are going to be gone. No, they won't be. We need to go free enterprise even more with that, not less. The universal basic income is not, well, outside of the lava curve, I've probably written more on the universal basic income than any other subject. It's a horrible idea. I say issues to consider. I have small articles condensed down from my larger articles probably 3,000 or 4,000 words, and I get it down to 600 or 700. But read through the longer article where I really consider all the different issues. Why are you, the reader or listener, not paying them more? If you're the one complaining, hey, pay them more, raise minimum wage. You have to ask yourself, before you ask somebody else to do something, why are you not doing it? And a serious question, you want somebody else to pay somebody $15 an hour? Why are you not paying them $15 an hour? Are you offering them a job for $15 an hour? Why are you complaining to the person that is paying them more than anybody else in the world, literally complaining how much they're not offering them enough when they're offering them more than anybody else in the world? If somebody else was offering them more, they would probably go work for them. So why are you complaining to the people paying or paying somebody or offering to pay somebody more than anybody else in the world, including you. Universal basic income, I told you I wrote a lot about it, how it deals with the Laffer curve. So my two passions were the Laffer curve and universal basic income. I combined them into that one article. Issues of income inequality, I did that one already. Why tax deductions, exemptions, and credits are bad economics. So I have a few articles dealing with that because I think it's so important. There are not only two jobs. Okay, we did this one. This is a duplicate one, I think. Okay. When the government owes everyone money, I did that one. I'm not sure why we have some of these are going twice. The role of prices is highly valuable to achieve the proper levels of goods and services. So government regulations ruin the role of prices, or many government regulations can. Certain government regulations do. So prices are the best way to distribute goods and services, and we need to let prices do the work and not have government regulations that mess with the role of prices. And you might not think of government regulations mess with the role of prices, but most of them do. So I try to stress here how the role of prices is highly valuable. Okay, all taxes harm the poor the most, and I believe that to be true dramatically. People's like even highly progressive tax rates harm the poor the most. As I stated before, there's an article I wrote how highly progressive tax rates almost ban the rich from serving the poor. And the rich are basically synonymous with who can do something the most effective, the most productively, the most cost effectively. That's why they become rich, because people are offering them money to do them services. Okay, something is only worth what somebody else is willing to pay for it. That notion is out there. That's been out there for a long time, but I really try to stress that. Why people don't work for all 168 hours in a week. So I talk about that issue. There's 168 hours. Why do people not work at it? It brings into the discussion some really important thoughts. So when you read that, whenever you read another article, it brings it into a perspective and gives you a little bit of context a little bit. The inflation taxes Laffer curve. So we talk about how the inflation tax has a Laffer curve. And obviously it's not one-to-one, it's not mathematical, it's a directional thing. Price controls create lower supply, lower quality, and higher prices. Price controls are just not good. And a lot of government regulations affect, maybe not totally control, but affect prices in a negative way. It pushes prices around in a way that is not good for the consumer and the producer. Is there really inflation? We talk about what's the correct definition of inflation, and is there really inflation? If we were to have good monetary policy, the definition of inflation should not be the general rise in prices. That should not be the definition, and we discussed that. So it's important to understand some of the things I say in there for a lot of arguments dealing with monetary policy. The poor are harmed the most by the effects of the Laffer curve. Again, going back to the poor are harmed by taxes the most. And the effects of Laffer curve is the effect of taxes. Okay, money on a closed island, it kind of lets you think about a better monetary policy, which I have a new monetary policy, by the way. Totally backed up, 100% backed up with goods and services, or goods. Okay, a scenario, all economics should be viewed. It really shrinks down the whole world into a very small economic box, so you can try out or discuss a economic topic and see how it's going to work out in this very small community. And then, because economics has so many factors, if you shrink it down to a small community and see what kind of actions you might have when you change a certain policy, what kind of economic factors come up. So you can, it's a little bit easier to look at, because when you're talking about 8 billion people in the world, 7 to 8 billion people, things get very, very messy, very wide, very rapidly, and it's hard to wrap your head around it. So we should look at it, we should bring it down to a small community, small little scenario, and hey, what happens if we make this change? What's going to happen? And that allows you to look at it. And studies, they don't do it justice. So go to a small scenario and look at it through that framework. The value of your labor versus the value of your leisure. Again, that kind of goes back to, why aren't you working all 168 hours in the week? So that goes back to that one. It's kind of a sister article to that one. Okay, spending as a tax. Milton Friedman had the basic notion that spending is the true tax, and I go further into that. Deductions, exemptions, and credits create a faster loss of economic activity. We talk about why would the economy grow or shrink with different tax rates and stuff. And this is the third article I'm reading right here on the issues of deductions, exemptions, and tax credits, because I think our tax code is highly important, and a progressive tax code is very, very bad. Is gold or the dollar a good investment for the economy? I'm not asking if it's a good investment overall and within our economy. I'm asking, is it good for the economy? And read that very directly and find out the points I'm trying to make. The 10th commandment, thou shalt not covet, is very important part of economics, and how a lot of people are, how people should view the economics and not view the economic world. Private market benefits versus government control of the market. It's important. Minimum wage protest. Just what are they protesting, really? Anyway, the Laffer curve is huge. That's one of my biggest parts of economics, and that creates more economic lessons than anything else when I taught economics. So highly important. Okay, HALEYNOMICS is just a lot of articles I wrote. I want to write a lot more on that, but I have a lot of plates up in the air spinning at the same time, and but I always get something into my head. Hey, what about this? What about this? I'm reading somebody else's article, and I'm thinking, you missed a couple factors. You're not putting them as much weight on this factor as you should. And then I write about that issue and try to give the world the knowledge of, or at least the arguments to help them think about a certain subject better. Anyway, 28 minutes on this article or this video, but go look through my Facebook page under HALEYNOMICS, or better yet, go to my website, haley2024.org, and it'll give you all the information. There's a on the drop-down menu, you can clearly find HALEYNOMICS, and then you can find all my articles there. Until the next video.